So here's the deal. My wife and I have been married for 7 years, together for almost 10. No kids yet, just a couple of mid-30s suburbanites with a golden retriever, a mortgage, and what I thought was a solid marriage. We've always had our ups and downs, money stress, job transitions, the usual, should we or shouldn't we have kids? Back and forth, but overall, it felt like we were in it together. That's why the last few months have been throwing me off. You know the gut feeling that something's just off? Yeah, that. She started getting distant. I chalked it up to work stress. She's in marketing and had just landed a promotion that put her in more meetings than a politician during election season. Suddenly she's got work trips to cities that don't exactly scream business conferences. Lots of late nights at the office, random new gym sessions, and a new privacy kick where she started putting passwords on everything, even her Spotify account. I didn't think too much of it at first. I mean, she's my wife. I trusted her. Hell, I still kinda do. Or I did. But little things started piling up, like how she'd laugh at texts but not say who they were from, or how she'd suddenly turn her phone face down like she was playing poker with Satan. The woman who used to tag me in memes now treated her phone like it was a CIA asset. I remember telling myself, "Don't snoop, don't be that guy. If there's something wrong, she'll tell you." Well, she didn't. And that's where things started to crack. Alright, so here's where things started spiraling. A few weeks ago, she tells me she's got a team building weekend at some lakeside resort about 3 hours away. Now, I've worked in corporate long enough to know what a team building weekend usually means. Trust falls, flip charts, and someone inevitably crying after 2 glasses of wine and an icebreaker. So, I didn't think much of it. Gave her a kiss goodbye, told her to enjoy the free buffet. She packed light, oddly light. No laptop, but 3 sets of lingerie and her night out heels. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. Because again, I'm trying to be trusting. Supportive. The husband who doesn't spiral into paranoia just because his wife suddenly has a new perfume and wears makeup to work on Fridays. But Saturday night comes. I'm home with the dog, watching Netflix, and around 10 p.m., I send her a "Hope it's going well" text. No response. Midnight rolls around. Nothing. Now I'm starting to worry. Call her. Goes straight to voicemail. Not even a ring. I tell myself maybe she's just out of range, or her phone died. Could be anything. 2 a.m. Still nothing. Finally at 3:17 a.m. Yes, I remember the exact time. I get a message. "Hey babe, sorry phone died. Long day, going to sleep now. Love you." Simple. Innocent enough. But something about it made my stomach turn. It wasn't her voice, or tone, or whatever you call it in a text. It felt rehearsed. Sanitized. Like she was covering a story she'd practiced in her head. I wish I'd listened to my gut. Instead, I let it slide. Next day, she gets home, drops her bag, says the weekend was fine, and goes to take a long shower. Doesn't mention a single detail. No stories. No, you won't believe what Jeff did during charades. Just radio silence. So I waited. And then I did something I'd never done before. I checked her phone. Yeah, I did it. I checked her phone. Now, I don't snoop. I've never been that guy. But this wasn't curiosity. It was survival instinct. Something in me knew something was wrong. And like fate had a sense of humor, the damn phone wasn't locked. She'd either forgotten, or maybe deep down she wanted to get caught. First thing I did was check her texts. Nothing. Her last messages to me were there, nice and polished. her group chat with her work friends, full of tame banter and LOLs. So I dig a little deeper, scroll through her recently deleted. Boom. There it was. A thread with someone named Chris W. Not saved in her contacts, no profile picture, just a number with a 949 area code. I tapped on it, and I swear my heart dropped into my shoes. Here's a quick greatest hits reel of what I saw. You looked so good in that dress. I couldn't stop staring. Last night was everything. I needed that so bad. Your husband doesn't know what he's got. And her replies? I can't stop thinking about you. I felt alive for the first time in forever. We have to be careful. He's been asking questions. I just sat there, on the couch, holding her phone like it was radioactive. My hands started shaking, not from rage, but from pure disbelief. This was my wife. The woman who made me soup when I had the flu, who cried during Pixar movies, who had just kissed me goodbye 2 days earlier like nothing was wrong. She was cheating on me. And not just physically, it was emotional. That's what crushed me the most. The way she spoke to him, it wasn't just sex. It was intimacy. That spark she used to have with me, the inside jokes, the late-night whispers? She'd handed that to some guy named Chris W. And the worst part? I still hadn't confronted her. Because I didn't know how. So I waited. She came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, humming like she didn't just blow our entire marriage to smithereens 24 hours earlier. She made a joke about how the water pressure at the resort sucked. I just nodded. I watched her, studied her like she was a stranger in my house. Then I asked calmly, like I was asking about the weather, "Hey, who's Chris W.?" She froze, mid-step. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't flinch. She just paused. That kind of stillness that only comes when your brain short-circuits trying to run damage control in real time. She gave a laugh too quick. Huh? Chris W.? I don't know, what are you talking about? I held up her phone. Didn't even have to unlock it. Just showed her the name on the deleted messages screen. She blinked, then blinked again, and said, "That's just someone from work, I think. Why are you going through my phone?" Ah, there it was. Deflection. Classic move number 1 from the cheater's playbook. If you can't deny, distract. I didn't even respond to that. Just said, "You told him last night was everything. You said you needed it. You said I don't know what I've got." Silence. Then came the switch. "Okay, fine," she snapped. "Yes, I had a moment. One night. I was drunk, and it meant nothing. And if you weren't so emotionally unavailable lately, maybe I wouldn't have felt like I needed that attention in the first place." Oh boy. So now it was my fault? I was the reason she snuck out of a resort and fell onto a dick? I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just looked at her and said, "You could have talked to me. You could have told me you were struggling. Instead, you lied. You cheated. And you buried it." She started crying then. Big, mascara-splotched tears. Said she felt so guilty. And was going to tell me eventually. Sure you were. She said it was just that once, that it was a mistake, that she didn't even enjoy it. Which, by the way, is an insane thing to say when I just read texts saying how alive she felt. It was like watching someone try to put toothpaste back in the tube. After she cried and gave me her TED talk on regret, we just sat there. I didn't say much. I didn't have to. You know that feeling when the room feels too quiet, even though there's sound? That was it. The dog was chewing his toy on the carpet like nothing happened, and there I was, trying to decide whether I should scream, throw up, or laugh at the absurdity of it all. She kept saying it was just once. That she didn't even finish. Like that detail was going to earn her a loyalty card. I finally asked, "Why him?" She hesitated. Then she said, "He listens." That hit harder than I expected. Not because it was true, but because that was the narrative she'd written in her head to justify what she did. I wasn't emotionally absent. I was just a guy working 50 hours a week, cooking on Sundays, folding laundry, doing the damn thing. Maybe not romantic all the time, but I was present. I showed up. Meanwhile, Chris W. listens. I didn't know if I was more hurt by the cheating or the fact that she was now trying to convince herself this dude was some knight in shining headphones. I asked, "Are you in love with him?" "No," she said too fast. I repeated it. Slower. "Are you in love with him?" She paused. Just for a second. But a second is all it takes. "No," she said again, quieter. And that second of silence? That told me more than anything else she said that night. She went to bed early. I didn't. I stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling like someone had replaced my life with a cheaper, sadder version. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt right anymore. She cheated. She lied. She flipped the blame. And now I was alone with the fallout while she slept like a baby upstairs. The next morning, I made coffee like a robot. Same routine. Grind the beans, heat the water, pour over, but the smell made me nauseous. It was like my body knew this was no longer my home, even though nothing had physically changed. The walls were the same color. Her mug was still hanging on its little hook. But everything felt fake. Like a movie set built for a life that didn't exist anymore. She came down all chipper, like we didn't just have a nuclear meltdown 6 hours earlier. Said, "Good morning," like it was a normal Tuesday. I didn't respond. She sat down, gave me that puppy-eyed look. "Are we okay?" Jesus. That question. I told her no, we're not okay. And I don't know when we will be. She started doing this thing where she tried to overcompensate, cleaning, complimenting me on stupid things like how I buttered toast, hugging me from behind like we were starring in some TikTok couple's morning routine. It felt desperate and performative, like she was trying to fast forward through the uncomfortable parts and skip straight to forgiveness. Problem is, I hadn't even figured out what I felt yet, let alone decided if I was ready to forgive. Over the next few days, I'd alternate between total numbness and waves of rage. Like, I'd be driving to work listening to some stupid podcast and suddenly just slam the steering wheel, yelling at nobody. I kept thinking, how did we get here? She used to be my person, my partner. Now she was a stranger wearing my wife's face. I talked to a buddy of mine, divorced, brutally honest, and he said something that stuck. "It's not just the sex, man. It's the lies. That's the thing you'll keep tripping over in your head at 2 a.m. He was right. It wasn't the image of her with Chris W. that haunted me. It was her looking me in the eyes and saying everything was fine. About a week after the whole thing blew up, I hit a breaking point. I came home from work, and she was lighting candles in the living room. Romantic music playing. Dinner on the table. My favorite, steak and garlic mashed potatoes. She was wearing this black dress I always loved, like she was hosting date night in the middle of a hostage negotiation. She smiled. "I thought we could reconnect." I sat down, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "I'm not here to pretend this didn't happen." Her smile faltered. She sat across from me, folded her hands, like a kid waiting to be scolded. I told her, I can't do this halfway. If we're going to even attempt to work through this, then everything comes out. Every message. Every detail. Full honesty. No spin. No protecting my feelings or trying to soften the blow. She hesitated, said, "I don't want to relive it." I said, "You already made me live it." Now it's your turn. So we talked. Or more accurately, I interrogated, and she slowly peeled off pieces of the truth, like she was afraid of how ugly it looked in the daylight. Turns out, it wasn't just once. They met up a second time, a week after the first, just to talk. But you can imagine how long that lasted. She admitted she didn't tell me about that because, and I quote, "I already broke your heart once. What was the point of making it worse?" Ah, the old mercy lie. Classic. That second time was the final straw for me. I told her I needed space. Real space. Not sleeping on the couch while she tiptoes around like a ghost. I needed her gone. Temporarily, at least. She cried, begged, said she'd sleep in the guest room. I said no. This wasn't about punishing her. It was about reclaiming some goddamn clarity for myself. About not letting her crocodile tears blur the fact that she had crossed a line I never thought either of us would even get close to. So she packed a bag, went to stay with her sister, left me with the dog, the house, and about 1,000 unanswered questions. But for the first time in a week, I felt like I could breathe. The first night alone in the house was weird. Quiet, sure, but not peaceful. Just empty. I made a frozen pizza, watched the same episode of The Office 3 times, and finally passed out on the couch with the dog curled up next to me like he knew something was off. But oddly enough, there was also a sliver of relief. Like when you finally take off a pair of tight shoes after a long day. The tension, the guessing, the walking on eggshells, it was gone. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't dodging lies. I wasn't scanning texts or analyzing conversations. I was just me. Alone, yeah, but clear-headed. Over the next few days, I started journaling. Something I hadn't done since college. Wrote down every question that kept bouncing around in my head. Do I still love her? Can I trust her again? Do I want to trust her again? Who the hell is Chris W., and why does he know more about my wife's emotional life than I do? I didn't have answers yet, but just asking the questions made me feel like I had some control again. Meanwhile, she was texting every day. Morning. I miss you. Afternoon. Thinking of you. Evening. Please come to therapy with me. I responded only once. I need time. She respected that, shockingly. But she also sent a long email, because apparently we're back in the 90s now, detailing her plan to earn my forgiveness. Included in this plan was a promise to quit her job, cut off contact with Chris W., who she swears she told off already, start therapy, and go to marriage counseling. It was weird. Reading that email felt like getting a customer service apology after your flight got canceled. Polished, sincere-ish, but not what I needed. What I needed was to figure out if I could even look her in the eye again without seeing that secondhand. You look so good in that dress. Text flashing like a neon sign in my head. And that's where I was. Alone. Confused. But slowly reclaiming a version of myself that didn't feel like a character in her bad decisions. About 2 weeks into the solo life, I realized something strange. I hadn't cried. Not once. I wasn't suppressing anything. At least, I didn't think so. It wasn't numbness either. It was just clarity. Like my emotional compass had finally stopped spinning. I'd been riding a roller coaster, but now the ride had paused, and I could finally unbuckle and look around. And the view? Honestly, not as bleak as I expected. One night, I sat down with a glass of whiskey and my old beat-up notebook and wrote out 2 lists. List A, reasons to try again. History. 10 years together. 7 married. She's trying. Genuinely, maybe. Therapy could help. We had some good years. Maybe we could have more. I'm not eager to blow up my life overnight. List B, Reasons to walk away. She lied. Repeatedly. She cheated. Repeatedly. She only confessed after getting caught. She tried to blame me. I don't know if I can ever trust her again. The second list was longer. And heavier. I realized I'd been operating from a place of damage control, trying to fix, patch, stabilize. But now I was starting to wonder, why should I be the one doing all the heavy lifting when she detonated the damn thing in the first place? So I called her. Told her I'd be willing to meet. One conversation. Not at the house. Neutral ground. We met at a coffee shop we used to go to on Sundays, back before things got complicated. She looks tired. No makeup. Hoodie. Hand shaking around a latte. The woman sitting across from me was not the same person who'd pranced around in a black dress with wine and steak just days earlier. This version looked more like the girl I met all those years ago, real raw nervous. She said, "I'm so sorry." I told her I knew. But sorry wasn't enough. It was a start. But this wasn't her story to fix. It was ours. And I wasn't sure I wanted to keep writing it. That was the first time I saw her face truly crack. Not performative tears, not panic. Just loss. Real loss. And in that moment, I realized something else. I wasn't doing this for revenge, or control, or to punish her. I was doing this to take my damn life back. I didn't sleep the night after that coffee shop meetup. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to feel something that would make the decision for me. Anger. Love. Desperation. Something. But what I felt was tired. Not the kind of tired that a nap fixes. I mean soul tired. I'd been carrying this marriage on my back like a broken piano, pretending the music still sounded good if I just played harder. But the damn thing was out of tune. And maybe had been for a while. So the next morning, I made the call. I told her I wasn't ready to move forward with her. Not now. Maybe not ever. I said the affair was one thing, but the lying, the gaslighting, the way she let me walk around thinking I was crazy for months, that's what broke it for me. I said I needed space. Real, extended space. I didn't want to talk every day. I didn't want updates. I wanted time and distance to figure out if I even liked who I was in this relationship anymore. She cried, of course. But it wasn't the begging and pleading this time. It was quiet. More like a final exhale than a tantrum. I told her I'd start staying at my buddy's place for a while. He had a spare room and a stock bar, which, under the circumstances, felt like both a lifeline and a potential hazard. Packing that night was surreal. I kept expecting her to try and stop me, or say something dramatic like, "Don't do this," but she didn't. She just stood there in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes red, like she knew this was the cost of her choices. As I zipped the bag, I looked up and said, "You broke something I don't know how to fix." She nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't justify. Just said, "I know." I walked out with my bag, my dog, and the heaviest silence I've ever heard behind me. But here's the thing, the air outside? Crisp. Quiet. Clean. For the first time in months, I felt like I was breathing for myself again. Living at my buddy's place was weird at first. Felt like college again, empty pizza boxes, late-night video games, whiskey-fueled philosophical rants about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It is, by the way. But after the first week, something shifted. I started sleeping better. Waking up without that pit in my stomach. No more scanning texts. No more pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I got back into things I used to love, stuff I'd forgotten about. I dusted off my guitar, started running again. Not because I needed a revenge body or some dramatic glow up, but because I miss feeling capable. Like I had control over something, even if it was just my mile time. I also started therapy. Real, actual therapy. Told the guy everything, cheating, lies, the good years, the bad. He listened. Didn't try to fix it. Just helped me sort through the mess without drowning in it. One thing he said stuck. You're grieving a future you thought you had. And that's real. But you also get to decide what the next version of your life looks like. That hit me like a brick. I'd spent so much time being the husband, provider, partner, guy who always makes the reservation that I hadn't stopped to ask, who the hell am I without her? So I started asking that question out loud. And slowly, piece by piece, I started answering it. I wasn't rushing to date. I wasn't numbing out. I was just healing. On my own terms. Without pretending. Without her shadow over every decision. Funny thing is, when I stopped trying to fix everything, I started to actually feel whole again. It was a Thursday night. I was 2 episodes into some trashy true crime doc when my phone buzzed. Not unusual, group chat nonsense or spam most nights. But this time, it was her. Not a text. A voice message. Now, I hadn't heard her voice in weeks, not outside of memories, or the occasional mental rerun of that coffee shop meeting. I stared at the phone for a good 5 minutes before hitting play. It was shaky. Raw. Not rehearsed like her usual polished explanations. Hey. I know I said I'd give you space, but I just wanted you to know I'm still here. I'm still in therapy. Still not working. Still thinking about what I did and what it says about who I became. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not even sure I forgive myself. But if there's ever a day when you want to talk, just talk, I'd be here. No drama. No pressure. Just a message that landed like a stone in a still pond. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me respected it. Another part of me didn't want to reopen a door I'd worked so hard to close. But the thing that hit me hardest was realizing I wasn't angry anymore. Sad, sure, but not angry. And that's when I knew something had shifted in me. The pain didn't own me anymore. Her mistake didn't define me anymore. I didn't reply. Not right away. But I did sit with it. Thought about what it meant. Thought about her, not as my wife, not as the woman who betrayed me, but as a human being who fucked up royally and might actually be trying to change. Didn't mean I wanted her back. Didn't mean I was ready to forgive her. But it did mean I could hear her voice and not feel like I was bleeding internally. And that, honestly, felt like a win. 3 days after that voice message, I asked her to meet me. No fanfare. No cryptic, "We need to talk," text. Just a simple, "You free to talk over coffee?" She said yes instantly. I could practically hear the breath she'd been holding release through the text bubbles. We met at the same spot again. Familiar terrain, but this time it felt different. Less like 2 people playing roles, more like 2 adults navigating wreckage. She looked lighter. Not happy, not glowing, but honest. Hair tied up, no makeup, jeans and a hoodie. No facade. No sales pitch. We talked. About everything. She didn't dodge. She didn't spin. She said things I never thought I'd hear from her. Not just, "I'm sorry," but, "I was selfish, I was weak," and, "I broke something sacred." She told me she hadn't heard from Chris W. since the fallout. That she'd been doing real therapy, not just checkbox therapy. That she wasn't trying to win me back, but wanted to own what she did. I believed her. Or at least I believed that she believed it. I told her how broken I'd felt. How the lies were worse than the act. How I didn't recognize myself those last few months before I moved out. And then I said something I didn't plan to say. "I forgive you." Not because I wanted to be a martyr. Not because I was taking her back. But because I didn't want to carry this poison around anymore. I didn't want my future tied to her worst moment. she cried. Not in a manipulative way. Just overwhelmed. We sat there a while in silence after that. No decisions made. No rekindling. Just two people sitting in the rubble of something that used to be a life together, acknowledging the damage for the first time without denial or excuses. And then I left. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. Just peace. After that conversation, I didn't feel like I was at a crossroads anymore. I wasn't staring at two paths wondering which way to go. I'd already walked far enough down one to know it wasn't mine anymore. I didn't move back. I didn't give her false hope. I didn't even start some dramatic, new chapter, with a symbolic bonfire, or a new tattoo, or a trip to Bali. I just kept living. I stayed at my buddy's a while longer, then got my own place. A modest 2-bedroom, nothing flashy, but it was mine. Picked out a couch I liked. Set up a music corner with my guitar and a little amp. No ghosts in the corners. She and I talked a few more times. Not regularly, just enough to close the loop. I told her I wished her well. I meant it. I really did. We filed for separation about a month after that. No court drama, no mutual friend gossip explosion. Just 2 signatures and a quiet understanding that whatever we weren't anymore. I told my parents, my siblings, my close friends. They were supportive, surprisingly so. Turns out, people knew something was off long before I did. They just didn't want to meddle. And me? I kept building. Therapy turned into a weekly anchor. I started going on hikes again, solo at first. Then one day, I went with a coworker who turned out to be a hell of a listener. No sparks, no rom-com montage, just 2 people who liked trees and didn't mind silence. I learned how to cook one actual, real-deal dish that didn't come from a box. I took a weekend trip alone to a cabin, just to see if I could be with myself and not go nuts. Spoiler, I didn't. I liked it. That's how I knew I'd made the right choice. Not because it didn't hurt, but because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't losing myself trying to hold on to someone else. So here we are. Not the ending I wanted, but definitely the one I needed. Looking back, I think the scariest part wasn't the betrayal. It was the slow erosion of myself I didn't notice happening. The constant justifying, the blind spots I painted over with good intentions, the way I kept shrinking to make room for a version of love that was already dying. I don't hate her. I don't need revenge. She made her choices, and I made mine. And both of us have to live with the truth of who we were when everything fell apart. If you're in this place right now, if you're reading this at 2 a.m. on a Reddit thread because your gut's screaming and you don't know if you're crazy, you're not. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. You don't need the full picture to know when something's broken. And no, it's not weak to walk away. It's not dramatic. It's not giving up. It's choosing peace over performance. Truth over comfort. Yourself over a version of love that's built on lies. Here's what I learned. If someone makes you question your reality, you're already losing something precious. Forgiveness is for you, not them. You can grieve something and be glad it's over. Starting over doesn't mean starting from scratch. You bring everything you learned with you. You're stronger than you think, and more whole than you realize. I'm not healed. I'm healing. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. Stay strong, strangers. You'll get through it. I did.